How's it going, guys? My name's Evan, and welcome back to ESP Poker. Today, we're not at a usual spot. We are in Las Vegas. I got the opportunity to come out here for a couple days through my work. There's a big expo going on, and of course, had to jump at the opportunity. And tonight, we will be heading off strip to the South Point. Heard good things about their poker room, and I heard there's good action, so thought it'd be fun to head a little south and try something off strip. And with that being said, let's get into it.
I make my way in and buy into the 1-2 game for the max of 300. Doesn't take us long to pick up ace-queen offsuit in the small blind. There's a $7 raise from middle position and 2 callers. When it gets to me, I'm gonna 3-bet this. I bump it up to 35. The initial raiser makes the call and the other 2 players fold, so we go heads up to a flop that comes queen 10-9, giving us top pair. I elect on a $30 bet and middle position makes the call. The turn comes the 4 of hearts, and it shouldn't change much, but I slow down and check, and middle position checks it back. Leaning towards check calling any river bet, but unfortunately, we don't get the cleanest river. It comes an 8, putting a one-liner out there to a straight. I check it over, and middle position bets 75. It's an annoying spot to be in first hand of the night, but a lot of hands that check the turn most likely get there on the river. I go over my options, and eventually elect to make the fold. Let me know what you guys would have done here. I then go on to raise king-queen, jack-10, and queen-jack preflop, but end up having to fold when I don't connect with the board. And only after an hour at this table, the table breaks, so I head to a new table and add on for 100, so we're in for 400. However, only 3 hands in at the new table, I'm in the small blind and pick up ace-king offsuit. Couple imps to me, I make it 15 to go, and we get calls from the big blind, under the gun, and middle position. So we're heading 4 ways to a flop out of position that comes 10-10-3. I check it, the big blind checks, and the under the gun player bets 25. The middle position player calls his bet, and when it gets to me, I think we just have a straightforward fold here. It's likely that one of them either has a 10, or at least has something, I hope. So I let it go, the big blind folds as well, and as the hand developed, the under the gun player did indeed have a 10. That's alright, because the very next hand, I'm on the button and pick up king-queen offsuit. There's a couple imps to me, I make it 15 to go, and again we get 3 callers. Heading 4 ways to a flop, this time in position to ace-queen-jack, giving us second pair. Now all 3 players check it to me, and I'm not a huge fan of trying to bluff into 3 people, but at the same time, it seems like none of them really have anything, and I could easily represent an ace here, or maybe just take it down with what might be the best hand. I decide to bet $20, and one by one, each player folds, and we win the first pot of the night. And the very next hand following that, we pick up pocket 8s in the cutoff. So this is back-to-back-to-back hands. This time it folds to me, and for some reason I decided to limp. Not a huge fan, would much rather prefer a raise. But the button limps and the small blind makes it 13. The big blind calls, I call, and the button calls as well. So we're going 4 ways to a flop that comes jack high. No one seems to have anything as we all elect to check. The turn comes another jack, both the blinds check, and this time sitting with 2 pair, I elect to bet 15, the button calls, and both the blinds fold. Heads up to a river that comes a 7, I decide to check it over, and the button bets 30. I think we just have a straightforward call here. I feel like if he had a jack, we would have heard from him sooner. So this bet doesn't really make a lot of sense. Maybe he has a lower 2 pair, but nevertheless, I like to make the call, and we're good. He ended up only having ace high, and after playing these 3 hands in a row and winning 2 of them, my stack is almost back to even. Here I am in the big blind and look down at ace-9 of hearts. There's a raise to 13 from the small blind. I make the call and middle position calls as well. We head 3 ways to a fantastic flop that comes ace high with 2 hearts, giving us top pair and a flush draw. The small blind checks, I decide to bet 15, middle position calls and the small blind folds. So we're heads up to a turn card that comes another ace, giving us trips. I decide to get a little cheeky and check it to him, and he elects to check it back. The river isn't a great card, it comes a king, putting a one-liner out there to a straight. However, I think I can get a little more value. This player's been getting pretty unlucky and seems to be on tilt, so I decide to go for a little more value and bet $15. He thinks about it for a sec, sighs, and puts in the call. I show my hand and he mucks. Happy with my decision to go for a little more value on the river. Only a couple hands later, I'm in the cutoff and have ace-3 of hearts. There's an under the gun straddle to 5. I call the straddle, the big blind does as well, and the under the gun straddler checks his option. So we go 3 ways to a flop. That's a whole lot of nothing for me. It's king high with 1 heart. However, all 3 of us check, so I do get to see a free turn card. That gives us some life. It comes the 7 of hearts, giving us a flush draw. Both players check it again, and I think this is a good time to bet. I make it 10 to go, the big blind folds, and under the gun makes the call, who's the same player from the previous hand. Looking for some help on the river, but unfortunately, it does not come. It's the 4 of spades. However, under the gun checks it for a 3rd time, and I think this is a pretty good spot to bluff. However, in the moment, I just didn't bet big enough. I elected to bet $20, and again, just like last hand, under the gun sighs and puts in the call. He ends up having king 6 for a weak top pair, which made me think if I did go bigger, it might have gone through, but nevertheless, not happy with my bet sizing on the river, and we're gonna lose this hand. I win a small pot with pocket 10s before playing a fun one when we're in middle position and look down at pocket 5s. I make it 10 to go and only get a call from the button, who is a very intoxicated player at this point in the night. Let's just say the Coronas have definitely been flowing. We see a flop heads up that comes 8-4 deuce. On this board, I feel like it's still likely I have the best hand, so I like to bet $10, and he instantly raises me to 30. Now, I don't usually go off live reads, but the speed at which he raised it just felt a little fishy. I mean, he's been playing a lot of hands tonight, and I feel like folding here is just a little too tight, so I elect to make the call. Heading to a turn card that is actually pretty good for us. It comes another 8, which means it's less likely that he has an 8. I check it over to him, and now he bets 50 with only $26 behind. Now, this move is something I've noticed sometimes at low stakes. Players who are bluffing will often not go all in to save a little bit of money if they don't win. And that was just the vibe I was getting from this bet. So, I decide to stick with my gut and put him all in for his remaining $26. He looks frustrated and makes the call. We head to a river that comes a 7. I show my hand, and he ends up showing 3-4 of clubs, which means we just have him beat. Kind of a weird one, but we were able to take it down. And as you can see, I'm still trying to stack my chips, and the very next hand, I get dealt pocket 7s. I'm under the gun +1 and make it 10 to go. We end up getting 2 calls from middle position and the button. Head 3 ways to a flop that comes ace high. Not much going on for me, so I like to check it. Middle position checks, and the button checks as well, so we're gonna see a free turn card. That, of course, comes a 7, giving us a set. I check it again, middle position bets 20, and the button goes all in for $77. When it gets back to me, I don't want to just call, because middle position has about 230 behind, and he could be getting a good price if he has a strong draw. So if he wants to see a river, he's going to have to pay for it. I decide to go all in, and I have him covered. Middle position doesn't think about it for too long and lets it go, so we're heads up to a river that comes the king of spades. I show my hand, and we're good. The button ended up having ace deuce for a flop 2 pair, and unfortunately for him, I absolutely drilled the turn card, and we win a nice pot towards the end of the night. At this point, it was getting late, the table was starting to sober up, so I decided to rack up and hit the cage.
So we were in for 400, out for 677 for a profit of 277, bringing our 39 episode total to a profit of 1790. Recently I've been firing in some bigger games, and today playing 1-2, I just felt a lot more comfortable and confident, and that definitely helped me play better. I certainly plan to make at least one more video from Vegas while I'm here, so stay tuned for that. And with that being said, I'll see you in the next one.